Peace and Assalamu alaikum. This is Qasim Basir, the writer-director of Mooz-lum, the movie, and I'm giving a shout-out to Yfactor Radio, the best radio station in Australia.
Across the sea of life, so much pain, worrying divides, it's a shame, we don't see how it can be, all we need to
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all.
help one another, all we need is love, all we need to honor our mother, shelter our sisters, all to existence, God's help will come from above, but first we need the love.
Welcome to another episode of the Yfactor, guys. You've got Tasnim here on the mic.
Hello.
And you've got Daria there. She's too shy to say her name. All right, guys. Inshallah, we have another action-packed episode for you this week. As you might have heard, our opening intro was a shout-out from Qasim Basir, who is actually the director of the Mooz-lum movie. He was in town to premiere, and because the Yfactor is just so awesome, he had to give us a shout-out. Later on this episode, inshallah, we have a lot of very, very exciting things coming up for you. We interview a guest speaker in relation to the HSC exams. For those of you who are undergoing the HSC and listening to our show as a means of procrastination, we've even given you more reason to procrastinate. We also interview the IB, International IB. We'll speak more about that. And also, inshallah, we have very, very exciting movie tickets to give away at the end of the show. So stay tuned for the rest of the show because these exciting movie tickets will go
We've got 3 double passes to give away.
Exactly,
so stay tuned.
Exclusively only to Yfactor listeners. So your reward for putting up with us throughout the whole segment is to potentially get these movie tickets. So without further ado, Daria, we're going to start on the news. So our first segment this week is...
The Sydney Muslim leader who travelled to Libya during the uprising has died, his family has confirmed. The Australian relatives of Sheikh Nasser Zouay, president of the Australian Union of African Arab Associations, told his friends and founder of the Islamic Friendship Association of Australia, Kaysar Trad, he had been buried in Benghazi overnight. Sheikh Nasser entered Libya overland from Egypt in February to be with his family, his wife and children, who were trapped in the country while on holiday. The Libyan-born cleric was granted political asylum in Australia in the 90s and said he and his family would not return to Sydney until former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi was defeated.
This is really, really sad because he actually said when he went, his family were in Libya on holiday, so he went to be with them. And when he actually got there, he said, "I'm prepared to die for the sake of freedom and justice and to see our country taking their place in the world and Gaddafi to leave Libya." So our condolences go to him and his family, inshallah. And we do wish him to be in the highest levels of paradise with the martyrs, inshallah.
Ameen.
And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfume his grave. Now, speaking of war-torn countries, some good news actually in terms of the prisoner swap between the Palestinians and the Israelis?
Yep. So hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have celebrated the homecoming of over 400 prisoners released in the first phase of an agreement.
Not only hundreds and thousands, Daria, 200,000 went out to celebrate.
200,000?
In the Gaza Strip, yeah?
Wow, excellent. So these people, the 200,000...
we're celebrating.
Yes, the
exchange.
Sorry, I just had a picture blank there. Celebrated the exchange of Gilad Shalit, the captured Israeli soldier. Hamas, which negotiated the exchange, organised a celebration in the Gaza Strip on Tuesday that turned into a show of strength for the Palestinian resistance group that governs the territory and rivals President Mahmoud Abbas, the Fatah party.
That's basically because they swapped the 400 prisoners in exchange for the prisoner Gilad. And it's really sad though, like alhamdulillah, we are very joyous that these prisoners did get released, but the sad reality is that there's actually more than 5,000 prisoners still in Israeli jails.
And it really depresses me that one Israeli soldier equals to 400 Palestinian prisoners. Like, I'm sorry, but how is one life more important and worthy, you know?
Well, on the Yfactor page, I did post an article by Noam Chomsky, and he was speaking about how it's even suspicious that the 400 prisoners, it wasn't like out of the goodwill of Israel to release them.
Of course
that there were hidden agendas, and these were to be released. Read the article. I think it's very, very interesting. And it's really sad to see that.
And just on that note as well, I'll add that both Egypt and Israel were not really happy with the way it was handled. Apparently, when Egyptian news journalists got the scoop that Shalit is out and they wanted to interview him, Israel just really caused a big scene out of it, saying no, he's very weak and he can't do that. It's like, sorry, it's news. This guy is newsworthy.
Well, let us know your thoughts, and I do recommend you guys to read the article I've posted online, so have a look at that, and that's the swap deal.
The Yfactor.
Now, in Turkey, at least 26 soldiers have been killed in simultaneous attacks on police and military installations in southeastern Turkey, prompting a Turkish military response that has involved incursions into northern Iraq. A 2-year-old civilian was also reportedly killed during the attack. A security source said the attacks were carried out by the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, in several locations in Çukurca and Yüksekova in the Hakkari province near the Iraqi border during the night from Tuesday to Wednesday. The PKK claimed responsibility for the attacks on their website. The Reuters news agency reported...
Did you say they have a website?
Yeah, they've got a website. I don't know how they have the time.
Wi-Fi in caves, but go on.
Yeah, exactly. So the Turkish army responded with an air-supported operation against the fighters in Iraqi's northern Kandil mountains, with both airstrikes and soldiers on the ground employed.
I think the situation in Turkey with the Kurdish minority is actually becoming really heated lately, because every now and then there are sprouts of resistance, violence, protests. But to actually have reached 26 soldiers dead, I think is pretty there's
a lot of tension in Turkey at the moment. A lot of, I know personally, friends are very, very disappointed and very are grieving the fact that they aren't related to these soldiers who have unfortunately passed away. There's a lot of tension really going on.
But I think even from the Kurdish people's side, like, I think living as a minority group in Turkey has had a lot of they've faced repression and
and they're really sick of it. And not only the people there are two Kurds, I guess you can say, the ones that support the PKK and the ones that don't. And the ones that don't are really fed up because the PKK aren't really helping their situation into progressing and making some sort of movements and just getting their rights, I guess, applied to them, which I have to admit Turkey is very backward and very late in doing so, because at the end of the day,
Because it's funny, like, you've got, Erdogan going around, like, championing all these protests and revolutions and rights and
he's
stuff.
still got that Kurdish situation back in Turkey.
Well, one of a Kurdish activist online, Ruwaida Mustafa, was saying, she goes, in her opinion, the PKK's methods of violence, they're actually pushed to become violent due to the situation of them not being accepted. And she was comparing it, for example, to the Hamas. Like, although, strategically violence isn't their main, thing, when they feel like that's the only way, that's how they deal with. So obviously, as we said, there are two sides of the story. So our listeners, do get on the Facebook page and let us know, like, in relation to the PKK, in relation to Turkey. And if you do actually come from a Turkish or Kurdish background, I think it is a very sensitive topic, and your views will be highly appreciated.
The Yfactor.
In more strange news, the US said it will reconsider a special investigation of alleged human rights abuses in Bahrain, quote, alleged, like we haven't seen the protests and the massacres, before moving ahead to get this, seal a $53 million arms deal with the Gulf Kingdom. Now, I don't know if you guys have done your research, but like Bahrain is probably like smaller than Sydney. You can travel from
and they're very, very wealthy.
They are. You can travel from one side.
Lived there for many years.
You can travel from one side of the Gulf to, from the kingdom to another in literally like less than 45 minutes. I don't know why they need 53 million in arms. Now, basically, in a letter to Ron Wyden, a US Democratic senator, he said that before the arms deal is actually sealed, they're going to see the Commission's report into the alleged violence, and he said that this is something we will look at closely. Now, a lot of human rights movements have actually come and criticized this deal, because they're saying, from one side, America is paying lip service to the protesters, to the dead, to things like this, and then at the same time, a $53 million arms deal. And not just Bahrain, but if you actually look at all the protests, all the countries that have been protesting, where they've been getting if you actually track down their arms history, so you know, with WikiLeaks, especially with their reports coming out that Libya was receiving arms from some countries up to 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And you just wonder, seriously, this is something so fishy.
That's
for
right.
these countries to be sold arms by these multinational corporations owned by the strongest countries in the world, and while their spokespeople come out and pay lip service to freedom.
WikiLeaks, where are you? Give us some documents.
All right, I think our last news article for this week is the Queen is in town.
So yes, the Queen has touched down. She was greeted on Wednesday, which is her 16th visit to the land down under, along with the Duke of Edinburgh.
I know you're all probably tearing up from your excitement that the Queen is finally here.
Yes.
But we do salute the good old Queen.
Yes, we do.
Hey guys, we're not Monica's here.
Yes.
We're just saying.
And if you are listening, Queen Elizabeth, hello, we are from the Yfactor.
Yes, if you want to grace our studios with your presence,
that's right.
We'll think about giving you an interview on the Yfactor.
We might, we can't promise you anything.
All right, so that was that in international news. However,
we've got one more news. It's breaking news. So, a malaria vaccine has eluded scientists for decades, but preliminary results from a phase 3 clinical trial in Africa are providing hope. The data suggests that the vaccine known as RTSS cuts the number of malaria cases in half, which is excellent news.
Definitely, because overall 15,000 children in 7 African countries who had participated in the actual trial said that the participants actually, although they never ever progressed, this time more than half are, and it's really sad because in these regions a lot of people actually die from waterborne diseases, and also from the carriers of the infested water, which is the malaria not bugs, what do you call them? Mosquitoes,
parasites, or whatever they call it.
Exactly. So you know, that's alhamdulillah, this is really, really good, and inshallah, you know, may God give them the strength to actually find this vaccine and find vaccine for all the other diseases out there that do not have a cure,
inshallah.
All right guys, that brings us to the end of the news segment for this week. As I said, stay tuned. HSC students, up next we will speak to a guest speaker about the HSC, but as I said, action-packed episode. Make sure you tune in. You're listening to the Yfactor on 87.6 FM.
The Yfactor.
وخير خلق الله رحمة للعالمين عليه الصلاة والسلام عليه الصلاة والسلام
يا صادق الأقوال يا محمد يا طاهر الأخلاق يا محمد يا هدي الأكوان يا محمد يا تاج رسل الله يا محمد يا خير خلق الله يا رسول الله. يا رسول يا بدر التمام نور الظلام علي المقام سيد الكرام منقذ الآلام عليه الصلاة والسلام عليه الصلاة والسلام
يا نبي الله صفي الله يا محمد يا ولي الله حفي الله يا
The Yfactor.
Welcome back from the break, guys. Joining us in the studio today is Wisam Krayem from Alpha Omega Education. Welcome to the show, Wisam.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How are you going?
Alhamdulillah. Wisam, as you know, HSC is, just kicked in now, and people are probably pulling out their hair and going crazy. So at the Yfactor here, we thought we'd provide a segment to cater for our HSC audience. So just at the outset, why is the HSC so important? Is it just Arab parents that hype it up to be, the end of the world, or what is the HSC exactly?
I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, it really just depends on the individual themselves. Let's face it, it's not the be-all and end-all of a person's life. However, it does give you inroads into depending on which career you actually want to do. So if university is something up your alley, then definitely yes, the HSC is quite important. If however it's not something that you want to do, you want to go into something like a trade or something like that, I mean obviously the HSC is not it's not that trivial.
So it's basically a stepping stone onto the future.
Exactly right. I mean, look, in the end, really, it's what I usually tell my HSC students as soon as they finish the HSC. I mean, welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. So really, the HSC is the beginning of the end of something. So yeah.
And so I remember when I was doing my HSC, I was constantly stressing. What type of tips or advice would you give to those students studying for the HSC, and how would they manage that stress?
I mean, I can imagine how stressful it can be. You've been going to school for 13 years, and then this is, I mean, the reason why you stepped into kindergarten on that first day was really because of this major exam, and there's so much pressure and there's so much coverage just based on these major exams. It is a stressful time. Let's face it. There's no need to hide behind the veil and say that it's nothing too serious. But these are the times where the tough get going, right? So when the going gets tough, the tough need to get going. So this is the time where you got to pull up your socks. You just got to go all out, study as hard as you can, and just give it your best shot.
But in the process of giving it your best shot, right, a lot of people feel overwhelmed, right? So you feel like, we're going to speak about study tips now, but I'm just talking about general stress management. You feel like, okay, what do I do? I can't, I'm starting to study and I just feel like I'm going to vomit, I can't even bring myself to study. How would you recommend students to decrease those feelings so they can
anxiety levels
exactly so they can productively start studying?
Look, no stress at all is impossible.
Yep.
Okay, we usually have this graph where I work, where basically it's kind of like a parabola upside down, so it's like a concave down graph. So if you have no stress level at all, most likely you're not going to perform. Your care factor is not there. There's nothing really there to drive you. Exactly. And if your stress levels are too high at the same time, because of your anxiety levels and everything like that, it affects the way you study, which will affect your performance. So you just need to balance that stress. It's fine to feel the butterflies before you go into a test. It's fine to be a little bit shaky and things like that. If you plan right, if you know that you're prepared, just make sure that basically think positive, don't think negative. You might come out of an exam thinking, I just stuffed that one up. It's not a problem. Just don't worry about the past. You can't change anything in the past. Don't worry about scaling. You can't affect the whole marks of New South Wales. Just focus on what you can do and stress less.
Okay, well, speaking of planning, they usually say failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So in terms of study tips, right, as someone who teaches HSC students, do you have any specific, for example, recommendations or methods on how they actually should go about studying? I know it's obviously way too late now, but for example, last minute tips on how to, maximize their study habits.
Definitely past papers is the way to go right now. We're already inside the HSC. English is over. There's pretty much, just the mathematics, the sciences, and a few of the social sciences left. Basically, past papers is really the way to go. Read over your notes. Make sure that make sure that the questions that you're finding difficult, maybe go back and read over your notes for those particular concepts. But really, past papers is really the way to go. Make sure you've got a list of all the different concepts that you that you might struggle with, and just go over them in particular. Plan your time. Definitely plan your time. We've got, make the most of the weekend. Don't worry about picnics. Don't worry about weddings. Don't worry about any family events like that. Not until after the HSC. And really ask for advice. Do
you actually recommend people to study in groups, or do you think it's...
I think it really depends on the individual. Most people study better individually, although they might lie to themselves and think that they could study better in a group. I mean, I remember when I was doing my HSC, and you probably remember as well, it's
to hang out.
Exactly right. You end up making more friends than hours of study that you actually do. So it is better to do an individual type of study routine, unless you find that, for example, for particular subjects, you might find that group study might be a little bit more effective. So it really does depend. I don't recommend people have iPods or music or Quran or something like that in the ears. You have to simulate the exam. Okay, so you have to simulate the exam. In the exam, it is dead quiet. You can hear a pin drop. In the study, you should be able to hear a pin drop.
But for girls, we usually think we like to multitask, so we can listen and study at the same time.
Although it is scientifically proven that girls can multitask, you really like even astronauts when before they go into space they simulate the g-forces, they simulate the spins that they actually put in that simulation of going into space with those g-forces. That's what you need to do in practice. Football players, when they're in training, they actually play against each other. They actually simulate a real match, and this is what we need to do. The HSC is a competition. Okay, the competition, I mean, ATAR itself, ATAR, stands for Australian Tertiary Admissions Rank. So it's all about a ranking. It is literally a competition. Exactly right. And so we really got to treat these exams like a competition. Okay, and the best way to do that is to simulate what you will be doing in the exam. Sit down. Exams are usually about 3 hours long. Make sure that your brain, your stamina can actually last for a length of 3 hours. Depending on the exam, of course, and try to make it an intense 3 hours, not a log into Facebook and study type of 3 hours. A real intense and productive, a real productive 3 hours. Make sure that you're on the ball. Make sure that you're really trying hard with these questions.
And I know your background is maths and stuff. Do you have any memorization tips? So, for example, kids that are having difficulties with formulas and stuff, do you have any tips to remember that, or it's a bit too late?
I'm definitely not an advocate of memorization. Okay,
even the formulas.
Even the formulas.
Right.
Why is that?
When you memorize something, you're putting yourself out on a limb to forget. Okay, so you could easily forget, especially under exam stress and pressure. You could definitely go blank. I don't recommend people memorize. I recommend people understand what the formulas are and why they need to use them, and practice a lot of questions. Like what I used to do when I was doing my HSC, and this is what I recommend to all my students when I'm in classes, is basically write down before you do every single question in practice. For example, just a 2-unit question, for example, the midpoint of a line. Always write down the formula, then answer the question. So whenever you're practicing, always write down the formula, then answer the question.
So if you're halfway, you can just always, and you get lost, you can always go back and have
exactly
a look
right. Well, it's not just for getting lost, but really it keeps you structured, okay? And it's not about memory. It's about that you do so many questions and you've written down the formula so many times that it naturally becomes part of your memory. So you're not sitting there. It's not like a Quran where you're going to walk around the house and say, okay, M1, M plus M2. It's not like that, right? So it's really all about the understanding and making sure. See, if you grasp the concept itself, memory becomes void. Basically, it's useless, and you just understand and you move on.
Excellent.
So sorry, just to cut you off. Even on the English, from an English perspective, because we have a lot of HSC markers. Even the HSC judge for English papers and studies of religion papers, they work with us. And they say that you can really tell when a student memorizes an essay and just writes it down, and a student who has understood the concepts, the themes, the analysis, and just comes up with an essay on the spot. And predominantly, the students who have not memorized their essays, they usually get the better marks in the HSC.
Yeah, I remember our teachers always told us, look for those words, for example, like analyze, discuss, things like that. Because obviously, although the content might be similar, those words can make or break your essay. Exactly, and that's right. The distinguishing between, for example, if you get, band 4 or 5 or things like that, very technical words.
Exactly right. Don't be phased out though if you've already done your English HSC and you've memorized your essay and you just wrote it word for word. Just hope for the best. There's no need to dwell on the past.
Well, look, as we're just talking about the HSC, I'm remembering back in the day when I sat for it. Oh, I'm actually getting nervous. Okay, so our other question is to the parents. So what type of tips or advice would you give to our mothers and fathers with students who are sitting down for the HSC? Should they stop nagging the kids and give them their a share of spare time? What type of advice and tips would you give?
Definitely this is the time to be supportive. It's not a time to put added pressure onto the students. Exactly right. I think what's important is now it's not throughout the HSC, usually after the first exam or so, students usually just get over it. The nerves start to settle down. There's not as much stress unless it's an exam that they're really concerned about. And they just go about it. It becomes like a normal trial week, like trial exam week, and so on and so forth. It is a time to be supportive. I think what's important is after the HSC, not to dwell over the mark too much. Okay, not to have expectations to set too high and then then really the confidence shoots down as soon as the marks get there, and then everyone's upset, and you got half the households crying and things like that. I mean,
I think also a major part is comparing it. You know, when they're like, oh, the neighbour's son did this,
yeah,
this,
especially when they compare you to your cousins.
Exactly, and don't put don't shame me.
You do have the odd parent who pulls out the yellow pages and wants to call every single student and let them know how their child went. That's
my auntie.
But really, I mean, the real thing is it's about the future. Okay, so it's not about the HSC. It's about what they want to do in their life. What are the solutions? Let's just say that you didn't get a good HSC result. Let's find the solution. Let's not dwell on the problem. Let's move forward. Is university still an option? Which course should we do? If university is not an option, is TAFE an option? Is work an option? Is maybe taking a break? You got to sit down. You got to reflect. And this is something that a lot of us don't actually do.
We sound really liberated. I think half the mothers are probably cringing at this moment.
Probably.
They're probably like Sydney Uni or nothing. No, but definitely, I think a lot of added burden is, I don't know, for speaking from my friends when we were going through the HSC, a major component is family considerations. Like, they're just like, you know what, sometimes I reach a breaking point where, you know what, stuff this. Like, I've just reached a point where I don't even care anymore. And I think if parents can actually accommodate their children's feelings and be supportive for them, at the end of the day, it's their life. I know you care, but you know,
it's not the end of the world, like you said before.
It's not just about being their life and so on. I think it's important for parents here to take a little bit of a step back in terms of even reflect on what they have done in the last whatever years in their child's life, in terms of setting goals for their kids and not just putting that pressure. What did you get? What was your rank? Why didn't you improve? Type of thing. And also, hopefully, if they've got more kids after this one doing the HSC, I think it's very, very important to actually sit their children down and actually have a plan for life. Set some goals. Look at what weaknesses their child has. Face it, whatever it may be, and just hopefully find a solution and move forward. I mean, it's not just about my son or daughter wants to become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. It's really about being happy and being successful in any way, shape or form.
All right, Wisam, Jazakallah khair, thank you so much. I think they were very valuable tips. Any closing remarks?
And just make dua, inshallah, that all the HSC students do very well and conquer their exams, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
وسلم دائما 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 مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفارقين من عرب ومن عجم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته لكل هول من الأهوال مقتحم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير خلق الله كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم ثم الرضا عن أبي بكر وعن
Yfactor.
Assalamualaikum everyone, it's Karim here reporting for the Yfactor. With me today, all the way from Harlem in New York, is the director of the film Mooz-lum, Qasim Basir. Assalamualaikum Qasim, how are you going today?
Walaikum salam, I'm good. Good, how you doing?
Alhamdulillah, very well. Thanks for joining us today, it's an honour to have you on the show.
Thank you.
You had the premiere on the weekend and it was an overwhelming success.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people came out. The response was really good. It's incredible for me to come across the other side of the world and get that kind of response from people about my film.
Absolutely. And what was the inspiration behind the film?
Well, I was born and raised Muslim, in the U.S. and I learned a lot of things about what kind of person I should be, what kind of way I should treat others, and live with the amount of acceptance and tolerance and love and all these wonderful things. And all of a sudden you start seeing all this stuff. After September 11th, I started seeing all this stuff about the extremists and the terrorists and all this stuff, and none of which represented what I knew about being Muslim. And so I wanted to create a story that was a little more accurate to what it meant to be a Muslim person, and not a story that said all Muslims are perfect, because that's not the case, but a story that showed Muslims as human beings, because that's something we rarely ever see in the media or films.
And what impact do you think the movie will actually have on society and alleviating the negative stereotypes about Muslims in the West?
That remains to be seen. This is we're still going through it, man. It's like I haven't really gotten a chance to sit back and sort of assess what impact it's had yet. Inshallah, at some point I will be, and I can see a real impact that it has taken. But based on the response I've gotten so far, it's been great.
And where to from here? Any movies in the pipeline?
Yes, I'm doing a film right now, or I'm writing a film. Inshallah, I'll be shooting it next year in April or so, and it's called Destined. And I don't have so much information like the synopsis and all that right now, but there is a Facebook page for it, and I'm going to be putting up updates and the synopsis and all that stuff pretty soon.
All right, awesome. We'll post it on the Yfactor page on Facebook, so all the Yfactor fans can follow it and join once the movie's done.
Okay.
Awesome. Qasim, it's been a pleasure. Jazakallah khair. Thanks for your time, and hopefully we'll see you in Sydney once again.
Inshallah.
The Yfactor.
Stress for you, it seems that life is trying to mess with you and pester you. You thought you knew exactly what to best pursue. You're working hard on those things that you said to do, but you confess it's true that your success is few, and your folks are only helping and depressing you. Yo, you try to do the dean, but they be stressing you, and then it gets to you, but you suppress that too. An exam, you go and study day and night. Yo, you pray and write, hope for a grade you like, but when you get your test, you're in dismay and fight. Though there's no A in sight, and only 8 will write. Whoa, and what about the sister you inquired about? She's so pious devout that it required a scout, but then you get the news her well he fired you out. They will ride, no doubt, to someone higher in clout. Man, lately it seems that your calling in life is just you falling in strife. The word appalling is right, and you noticed you've been feeling sick. Why? Who knows? So you call upon the doctor, she can eye you close. She tells you, I suppose, that you won't be very happy when I diagnose. Although you try your hardest not to cry, it shows. It's a monster load, and your strength is sinking. You start wondering and thinking, what's going on? It seems all wrong. Why am I the one struggling along? I don't know why I'm hurting. I never hurt nobody. My life I'm living right, but it's crumbling around me. How strong is my faith this time? Will my solution include haram? I gotta be stronger in times like these. I know if the hardship big goes easy.
It's a test. It's a test. What you gonna do? You gotta realize it's a test. It's a test. It's a test. What you gonna do? You gotta realize it's a test. It's a test. It's a test. What you gonna do? You gotta realize it's a test. It's a test.
The Yfactor.
Today we are at the AIA, which is the Australian International Academy in Strathfield. I'm joined by the Deputy Principal, Mrs. Mafaz Asafi. Welcome to the show.
Hello, sir.
Ms. Mafaz, could you please just tell us what the IB is and how it works?
The IB it stands for International Baccalaureate. It's just like the HSC, the high school certificate. It's a system which it works exactly parallel to the HSC. Our school offers the two programs side by side.
Okay.
We give the choice for the students to choose. Most of them, they prefer, after we have told them fairly about each and every course, what is exactly the requirement, what it takes for you to become a graduate from year 12, regardless you have done the HSC or the IB. What is the privileges for each course and for each program? Each one has its negativity, and it has the positive side and facts about it. For the IB learner, definitely you heard about pillars of learning. The IB, we are teaching them to learn, to be self-learner, to be self-critical for themselves. We want them to learn how to live together in the society, how to know what is the best for them. We want them to live outside and to think outside the box, to have the right attitude, for like having the cooperation, being creative, know the appreciation for everything around them, whether if it's alive or not, have commitment, they have the empathy, the curiosity, they have the tolerance to accept everyone regardless, and they have the patience to put up with all the barriers, to have the confidence in themselves to do the right things. They have to like and they have to have the enthusiasm to finish the job.
And how do you suppose the IB does facilitate for that?
It is a 2 years course, but it has 6 topics, and it is compulsory for them to have 2 languages. It will teach them how to think globally, actually think locally and act globally. They have to understand what's the meaning of being caring towards people outside their vision. Not they can't observe that person like what is happening in Somalia. I know this is the job for each and everyone, but as a matter of fact, it is a job for all of us united together, and we are teaching them to have that characteristics. It's built in a subtle way in their course.
And so this is an internationally recognized course?
It's international. It is international.
Okay, so they can go to any...
But it is endorsed by all the universities nationally. New South Wales, and it's in the whole world. Like, if you go anywhere, any city in Australia right now, one of the 7 states, you will find that a lot of universities, if not them all, they endorse and they prefer the students who are who have been graduated from the IB program, simply because it has few elements which does not exist in another course. These courses, which we have to run side by side with the 6 courses, which is compulsory topics. Actually, even the assessment here, it has a big role.
Okay, so sorry, could you tell us a bit about how they are assessed, how are they examined, who's it marked by? And
these 6 subjects, which is, as I said, compulsory, it has external exam, which it comes from the IBO in Cardiff, and it is marked there. So the external exam will be dedicated by these people. They send the questions, and then the students sit the exam, which is going to be the 1st of November. All these exam papers will send to the center to be marked by an external people, not by the school itself.
Okay.
Having said that, I have to say that for each subject there is a component which is internally assessed by the school, by the teacher who is teaching, and it depends on the subject that it was chosen by the students. Some of them 20% of the whole mark, others are a little bit more. This is going to be run by the class teacher who is teaching for in the course of the 2 years, and it is going to be submitted by the end of year 12. And that will be a relief for that child who is sitting there, because it will take the pressure that everything is revolve around one external exam in one go, and it is 100%. There is no other way around it. This will give them some time out to think critically, as I said, because it's a long investigation. It is done by the child, by the student. He or she has to choose a topic they are interested in to do a research. It is a small thesis so the students who are going to graduate from the IB program, he or she will be well equipped with all the necessary skills which it has to be acquired, and they are ready and they excel in the university because they've got it all. Even
so all these
are in this program. So it is really important that we are teaching them something they are not aware they are having it, because it becomes part of the course.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Mrs. Mafaz, and we wish you all the best for your school and your students. Inshallah, they do well.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk about the IB program. As I said, our community deserve, and our youth, they have to understand that there is another chance for them. It's not just the HSC and full stop. There is another school, another program, another way of living and achieving your goals. The IB is another avenue.
The Yfactor.
I'm joined here by some International Baccalaureate students. We've got Muzaffar, Mohammed, Abdul Malik, Yusuf, and Nancy. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you.
All right, I might start off with you, Muzaffar, and ask you why you chose to do the International Baccalaureate as opposed to doing the HSC.
Well, I came from New Zealand just a few years ago, so I wasn't really familiar with the HSC system in Australia. So the IB system is more internationally recognized. Since I have family and things in New Zealand, South Africa, I might want to go study there one day, and the International Baccalaureate was the means which I could study internationally instead of being confined to only Australia and things.
And Mohammed, how did you find out about this?
It was through my dad. There wasn't at the start. There wasn't that much of a choice actually.
Really?
He's just like, I was at another school, and he came in one day and he's like, "All right, yeah, you're gonna have to pack your stuff and get to another school." I'm like, "What?" Right. So yeah, he started explaining it to me. He's like, "I went to your brother," because my brother done the IB before me.
Okay.
Like,
did he do it at this school?
Yeah, at this school.
Yeah.
So he went to this information line, and he saw all the benefits. They done like a comparison for the utens to make a choice.
Yeah.
And when he saw it, it's like, okay, your brother's going to do it, and you're going to do it after him.
What do you think your father saw that was a big benefit?
Well, to start with, I think the same point that Muzaffar mentioned, that this international, you become a global citizen. You know, the education you're taught is the same that's being taught in America, in some other country, in Japan, in China, everywhere. It's all the same curriculum, same syllabus. You have an international viewpoint, perspective, and there's also the benefits of studying abroad and all that stuff. Just in case something happens, you have to study abroad. There's no problems, and it's widely recognized and highly acclaimed internationally. Even besides other benefits like the conversion of marks,
no scaling.
Yeah,
there's no scaling.
It's shooting your marks, and the challenge. There's heaps of stuff.
Okay, and what has been your favorite thing about this course so far?
I think the most enjoyable part of it would probably be the theory of knowledge part. It was
taught by Osama Harris.
Yes, yes. It really opens up your mind to everything, because in the IB you have every subject that you do has a component that for example, you're studying a chapter in chemistry, on the side you see a TOK component where they just philosophize about some concept like moles, In the HSC you look at it, you understand it, and you move on. And here you consider the implications of the concepts you're understanding, the philosophical background of it, and all this. It just opens up your mind, and it's really fun, You philosophize,
So the subjects kind of run off each other. So you find that there's a big link.
The TOK is like the fiber that connects everything in the IB.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, and so say for example something like moles, how would you then apply that to the real world?
Well, I mean, like, that was just an example. But for example, you know, the moles, the concept you learn it, the IB would go, the TOK, I mean, would, you know, influence you to question it. You know, you say, okay, so what is this concept? It's abstract, so what are its implications? Can we rely on this concept to, you know, to perform experiments? Is it, you know, these types of questions? So you basically question everything that you're learning. It's a more open-minded way of learning.
And Abdul Malik, do you enjoy that as well, or do you find it a bit too much? The debating is too much and thinking into everything. Do you find it a bit overwhelming?
Well, no, because it's quite interesting in a class because everyone shares their own point of view. Gets into a debate like always. Yeah. And like it stays for the whole day, just everyone debating every subject about it. But yeah, it's actually fun. It may be overwhelming, but it's actually like you learn new things. Yeah. And you go home and research more about it, and you find what the real answer was. So yeah, it opens up your brain. It just works your brain. It feels good.
And how do you find the workload?
Well, yeah, it's IB, like, there's a lot of work. But
do you think more than the HSC students?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's a lot of work. Yeah.
I bet the HSC students say that they work harder than you guys do.
No.
No, they agree.
It's no debate. They agree. I mean, the IB course is like internationally known for its, you know, its rigorous course. It's like, you know, the workload is huge. Yeah. You got to do 6 subjects, and you have to do an extended essay, which is like a mini thesis. You're basically a university student when you're in year 11. You know? Wow. Yeah.
And you're saying that it was...
It's over 2 years, so the content is more. And there's also like an additional requirement of CAS. We have to do 150 hours of CAS.
Can you just explain what CAS is?
CAS is just community and service. You have to do 50 hours of service to the community for free.
Okay, so what kind of things have you done?
So I've done, for example, created a website. Okay. We've been to respite centres.
Yeah. And which respite centres did you go to?
Went to the one in Yaguna.
Yeah. My home?
Yeah.
Because we just covered a story last week about it.
Yeah, respite centres, and we've even been to YMCA centres, help the children over there, just supervise and help them play sport and that.
So do you do the community work as a separate thing? Like after hours?
After hours.
Okay.
You're meant to do it individually by yourself. So you go by yourself and you do the activity, then you go back and you write a reflection on it, what you learnt from the activity. You need to, like, everything that you do in the IB, it has it has some importance in your whole learning experience. So you're meant to learn something from everything that you do. Yeah. So it's supposed to make you a well-rounded individual in all aspects. So a well-rounded individual in the humanities, well-rounded individual in the sciences, and even in the community. So it covers everything.
Okay, so say you know what you want to do. For example, you want to do health sciences. With the HSC, you try and do maybe sciencey subjects because that's going to help you towards your actual degree. Yeah. Do you think that's better, or do you think the International Baccalaureate is better in that being a well-rounded person?
Well, in my experience, I opted for the IB diploma specifically for the well-rounded concept. I wanted to be a well-rounded individual, and I thought that it would be better for me to enter this program where it was a requirement for me to be a well-rounded individual. Then
the Yfactor.
My best thing that I find about the IB is it takes you out of your comfort zone. Yeah. So I'm not of Arabic speaking background, but I had to do Arabic in order to complete the IB diploma program. And so I learned a whole new language, which was beneficial for me in my religion. Definitely. And also beneficial for me in the world and for my IB. And alhamdulillah, that went quite well, the Arabic.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, and adding to those comments, like when you do the IB, like you develop your skills in many backgrounds. For example, my sister, she was a previous IB last year, and she was like a very shy student. So like when she talked to the teacher, she was shy. But after the IB course and after doing the internals, which was the English ISC, which is an individual oral commentary, 15-minute speech. Okay. So that helped her target her weaknesses.
The Yfactor.
I'm joined by Osama Harris, who is a theory of knowledge teacher, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so tell us about this theory of knowledge subject.
Well, it's a core requirement of the IB program, which every single student who does the IB must undertake. It's usually about 100 hours over a 2-year period, which translates roughly to about 2 periods a week.
Yep.
And what we do in there is basically study, evaluate and discuss and debate the idea of how do we know what we know. So it's really a branch of philosophy called epistemology. And what we do, it's broken up into 2 particular sections. The first of it, we discuss the ways of knowing. So we look at the idea of perception and the idea of reason and the idea of emotion and language as the ways in which we gain our knowledge of the world. And we look at the nature of how we actually use language, emotion, reason and perception to gain that knowledge, and what are the limits of each way of knowing. So just because we see something doesn't really mean it's really there.
Okay, but I can imagine that would be quite complex and hard for the students to...
Well, it really is designed to be a practical application of philosophical principles. So some very, very basic things occur, such as the McGurk effect, which students of psychology would know that the movements of the mouth dictate what we hear sometimes, and not necessarily the sound. And there was a few other instances, or such as optical illusions, and kids are tricked by optical illusions, but understanding why they're tricked is the key to it. So understanding that your eyes don't actually see, and your tongue doesn't actually taste. Rather, they just send signals which are interpreted by your brain, and your brain is influenced by a whole bunch of cultural and spatial factors. So we ask those very complicated issues, and we've come, even questions of how do we know God exists do come up. And I don't shy away from letting my kids ask those particular questions. The question is, how do they respond to it? Okay. Is faith in something simply found in the mind, or is it through direct experience, or is faith something a gift from God that's found in the heart? I mean, those are kind of issues that kids do need to deal with, and they need to deal with it maturely, because those are the kind of issues that are out there in society.
Yeah, and I guess it does prepare them when they go out there to university and they're faced with these questions.
That's right.
They are kind of prepared.
That's right. But so there are those issues. Also, when we do things like the social sciences, questions of is our behaviour determined do come up, and that affects questions of morality.
All right, thank you very much, Osama Harris.
Thank you.
Mountains of Mecca, what can you say of the day that Abraham passed your way, and he was instructed by God to build a house of peace where people will pray, and they will come on every lean camel and out of every ravine for the purpose of praising Allah, to glorify Allah. Oh, mountains of Mecca, what can you tell of the day that stones from the sky fell, destroying an army determined to break the house of Allah that Abraham built? Oh, mountains of Mecca, how was the dawn on the day that my prophet Muhammad was born? How did it feel knowing he was to be the last and most beloved of all, Rasul of Allah, Nabi of Allah?
Welcome back to the show, guys. So that brings us to the concluding segment of this week. Alhamdulillah, I think we had very enlightening segments. We did speak to the HSC, and hopefully our young listeners, got some tips. And also for the parents out there that do have other students that are yet to complete the HSC, the IB program offered by this school is actually very interesting, and I hope the insight given by some of the students and the teachers into what their program actually involves was actually beneficial for you. But our last segment is usual news and interesting things coming up. But this week, to our Yfactor listeners, we have an exclusive ticket giveaway. Daria, would you like to give them more information about that?
Thank you very much. Yes. Now, thanks to the House of Thai in Bankstown, Netfair Travel and Dompet Doafa, we have 3 double pass tickets to give away for people to attend the Australian premiere of Indonesia's biggest ever feature film titled Di Bawah Lindungan Kaabah, which is Under the Protection of the Kaabah in English. Now, it's a love story set in the 1920s, and we all love a nice love story now, don't we? In the Padang,
especially get this when it's the author's actually it's based on a classic Indonesian novel, which was actually made by a very prominent scholar, Buya Kama. So I think it will be pretty interesting.
Inshallah, I think so too. And this was particularly when Indonesia was under the colonial Dutch control. Now, in the story, there are 2 characters, Zainab and Hamid, and I believe the love story is between them. Now, the ultimate lifetime goal was to one day visit the holy sacred Kaaba. Now, what you guys have to do in order to win these tickets is email us in 50 words or less, what is your inspiration in life? Now, the 3 most creative answers will be given a double pass to the screening. So make sure you email us at yfactor@live.com.au, and inshallah,
you can win the one of the double passes. Now, for those of you who don't actually win, inshallah, this movie will be airing 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday, the 12th of November 2011, and we will advertise on the Facebook page exactly how you can attend this event. But I think it's just something really interesting. Like, it's very different. I've never heard of something like this in Sydney. Exactly. So again, in 50 words or less, tell us what is your inspiration in life, and we will be giving out 3 double pass tickets for the most creative answers, inshallah. So that's our movie tickets, and be sure to let us know your response. And that was yfactor@live.com.au.
The Yfactor.
Now, our next event that I wanted to speak about was the tournament. Now, I did post some details on the Facebook page, but again, for those of you who don't have Facebook, Go Active is actually having a tri-sport tournament with soccer, netball and dodgeball. Now, we've had Hiba on previous episodes, the project coordinator, speak about Go Active and their initiatives to make the community more, sporty and active, inshallah. So this tournament is really exciting. It's open to females only, 16 years and over. It will be held on the 27th of November at the Ultimate Indoor Sports in Silverwater. It's $10 registration, and registrations close November 11. You can visit goactive.org.au for more information, or ring up 043 114 0737. Now, what we actually thought here at the Yfactor was, why don't we actually put together a Yfactor team, right? A sports Yfactor team. And, we can compete as a Yfactor because we're super duper awesome, right? Now, only girls. So, ladies, if you are interested in joining the Yfactor team, we need 10 players, right? And if you're 16 and over and you basically know how to run, we want you. And inshallah, it will only be $10 per player. And then maybe, that way you'll actually get to meet the Yfactor host, and we'll just have a lovely day out. So for those of you who are on Facebook, get on Facebook. I've actually posted the link to the event, and express your interest. For those of you who do not have a Facebook and are 16 years and over, if you're interested, you can email us again at yfactor@live.com.au, or you can ring on 04 204 308 82. That was 04 204 308 82 for further information, inshallah. And I think if we even have too many listeners, maybe we can have like 2 Yfactor teams, and then we can compete against each other.
And inshallah, you won't receive any prank calls or marry me proposals.
The Yfactor.
Okay, and last but not least, before we just announce the 2 events for this week, as you are aware, Muhammad on the show last week discussed the issue of Somalia, and we've been discussing it over various episodes. SubhanAllah, it's a human tragedy, and the Somalian people really need our help. Now, what we thought at the Yfactor was, why don't we, as a team effort, pledge something, right? So even if it be, for example, the Yfactor aims to give them $1,000, right? Now, $1,000, you might think, oh, that's a lot, but what were we thinking? To break it down into $10 per listener. Now, $10 is nothing. That's like your lunch meal, right? Like that's 2 cups of coffee. So $10 per listener, and inshallah, if we get a lot of listeners, we can reach our target easily. Inshallah. So again, if you are interested in donating through the Yfactor for this Somalia appeal, As I said, $10 per listener. If you're more generous, then be my guest. Inshallah, again, get on the Facebook page, let us know your thoughts, or you can email us at theyfactor@live.com.au. Okay, and with that, inshallah, the two events for this week are?
Okay, so one is Faith and Evidence, Certainty in Islam. Now, UWS in Bankstown are holding this lecture. So it's located in Building 1, Level 1, Room 117 on Friday, October the 21st from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. So
the speaker, inshallah, will be Abdullah Kundi. So it's very interesting.
It would be, definitely.
Basically, faith through reason. Our next event is UTSMS Debate, Is Jesus God? This will be Tuesday, the 25th of October from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Aerial Function Centre, Level 7, Building 10 at the University of Technology. And this is an event organised by UTSMS in conjunction with MyPeace and also Credo and Aussie Christians. So if you are interested, both of these are interfaith events and I think are very worthwhile. So unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the show for this week. It was a lovely segment.
It was indeed.
And inshallah, we'll take the discussion to Facebook. So make sure you join us at the Yfactor radio show. And without further ado, we'll just leave it there. So from Tasneem and
Daria,
we would like to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
The birds, I am in the trees, from the brown branches to the green leaves. I'm colorful, spectrum infinite. I touch all, indiscriminate. Breed compassion and sentiment.